Hello, everybody. I'm Tyler Aquilina. I'm a media analyst for Variety Intelligence Platform, and I'm here to take this from one-on-one conversation to the biggest panel anybody's ever seen. So we're all here to talk about some of the challenges and opportunities in the connected TV space, also known as the smart TV space, which is obviously a major topic in the streaming ecosystem these days. So rather than just me sitting here and introducing all these panelists, I think I'll have them introduce themselves, starting with panelist number one on my immediate left. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. My name's Dave Bernath. I'm the general manager of the Americas at Wurl, and we are sort of a streaming ad tech company that powers fast channels all over the world, and I'm psyched to be here. Love this show.
Hi everyone, Matthew Hennick. I lead the Ventura TV operating system project for the Trade Desk. We're a new TV operating system and excited to share more.
We're excited to hear more.
Takashi Nakano with Samsung TV Plus. I handle content and programming for the Globe.
Hi there, I'm Catherine Pond, Group Vice President of Platform Content and Partnerships at Vizio, where I have the fortunate job of looking after all of our content and consumer-facing marketing for our operating system.
I'm Jen Box. I oversee content acquisition and programming for the Roku channel.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm very excited to talk to all of you about a very interesting business. Dave, I think I want to start with you just because you're in a little bit of a different position than everybody else here in that you don't actually work on a CTV OS. But can you tell us a little bit about the state of the field from your perspective? You know, what are some of the key trends that you're seeing in the space that relate to the state of the business right now?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that the ride of fast linear channels has been a great thing to see. I'm a cable TV guy, so I come from cable TV programming. Linear was supposed to die, 7 or 8 years ago, and it's lived on with the fast channels that are on all these guys' platforms that we send channels to. And so it's been nice to see that whole ecosystem kind of evolve and grow the last 5-7 years. But it does feel like it's plateauing a little bit on a couple of fronts. I think everyone's struggling with the demand and ad fill and monetization. And I think also that the user experience that was familiar to people because there was an EPG and these channels are on. I just flick around and find something. Innovating in how to evolve that, make it more personalized, create better paths to content discovery to drive viewership, I think is sort of that next chapter. So I think it's been a great success, but I feel like we're kind of in a bit of a plateau, what's next, kind of moment that is exciting. But I feel like that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. And then, for the rest of you, and anyone can feel free to weigh in on this. This plateau that Dave is talking about. What are some of the tools at hand for OS providers to address those issues of plateauing engagement and things like that? How do you kind of bring viewers back into the ecosystem and boost engagement? Jen, maybe do you want to start?
Well, as a platform, Roku has been growing. We're in over 90 million streaming households. And so what we're excited about is we have an amazing product team. And the product team is hyper-focused on getting folks into content as soon as they can without friction. And so that might mean creating a sports zone where you go to the sports zone and find what's on live right now. You'll find the best of clips and highlights, on-demand programming, as well as fast channels if you want to watch the NFL or NBA. So just kind of that aggregation and directing people into content based on personalization as well.
I'm happy to go next, and I think Jen led with Roku is growing, and I heard Dave say viewership is plateauing, and I'm going to double down on the growth of engagement because I think that is an important message here, which is, yes, has fast been around for a while? Absolutely, but we're continuing to see really strong growth and engagement, and I see Takashi nodding as well, across our FAST platform and across our operating system as a whole. And when it comes to how are we creating that, what are we doing, it's many of the similar types of things about the home screen engagement. That's certainly one of them. For Vizio, earlier this year, we launched a reimagined Watch Free Plus that's focused on free entertainment your way for every customer. And it's focused on surfacing personalized content for customers within the Watch Free Plus experience. What does that mean for everyone out here, and why does that matter for you? You could be a niche channel. you could be a major channel. But we are now bringing in all of that data in an anonymous way that allows us to surface what is most interesting for that customer, not just in the traditional EPG format, but in a new, interactive, and engaging way that really brings what they're looking for to the forefront, whether you're the biggest player in the market or if you're someone that's a niche player.
And I think that's a good point. I think when Dave mentions that, about this plateau, part of it is that users consume content, right? The user is the one who decides what they want. We are, the user ultimately is our boss, and they decide what they want to watch. And I think what Dave's referencing is that this transition around content is that we can't keep it the same. It can't be a single IP channel that you launched 8 years ago and you still have it on today. That's going to, by definition, deteriorate, right, and decline and decelerate. So, it's great. It got us to where we are today. And then I think the onus is on all of us and everyone out here to figure out, okay, this is television. So television is a stagnant ecosystem, always fails. So I think it's on all of us to figure out what is that next evolution. And at Samsung, we're a near 100-year-old company. We think about the world in, centuries, not just, this quarter or next quarter. So from that perspective, we don't see this as a plateau. We see this as this next step up to something that's better. And, you talk to our product team, you talk to our innovation labs, and we're thinking about new ways to bring content to the forefront, and not just the same stuff that we've seen, but how do you bring new content? How does the television change the way people consume content? And that's really what it's about. It's about the relationship between, the stuff that everyone's creating, the stuff that we've created in the past, the glass, and the person on the other side of that glass. And if you can connect all those pieces together, you have a thriving ecosystem. So, I don't see us as really plateauing. I see us as now taking that next step into what's going to be cool on the platform. I guess from my perspective, that's what I get to think about. So it's been difficult, but challenging, but incredibly fun to think about what that next phase of FAST really looks like.
The only thing I'd add to that is, our research has shown us that about 70% of the time that you turn on your television, you know exactly what you want to watch. And so from an OS perspective, I think our job is to get you from that power button to the play button as fast as possible. Because the less frustrating the experience, the more likely you're going to spend time watching and either subscribing or watching ads.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point about the intentionality when you turn on the TV. I feel like we hear a lot about people turning on Netflix and they search for 10, 15 minutes and they're like, I don't know what I want to watch. And they just end up maybe not watching anything or watching Grey's Anatomy for the 1500th time. But I think FAST has often kind of lived in this space of lean back viewership, for lack of a better term, or passive viewership. We're just going to serve you something, and you're like, oh, I didn't know I wanted to watch that. Takashi, I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Samsung has kind of started moving into taking it to a place where it's a place for more destination viewing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think in viewership, Matthew's I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's 70%. I have no idea what I want to watch, so I'm in the 30%. But most people, as they come in, and if they have a predestination of where they want to go, it's up to all of us to figure out, okay, how do we get our service in that, as a place where they want to be, they want to go to, right? How do we make Samsung TV Plus a place where they're intending to go to, not just Netflix? So yes, they may go to Netflix or YouTube or Disney Plus as a destination, but do they know exactly what they want to watch? I think it's on all of us to say, okay, our television ecosystem, Samsung TV Plus, is a place I want to go to. We know that our users come in to watch a lot of content, and we've seen exponential growth year over year, and that's exciting to see. And as our news cycles continue to get ever more exciting every day, more people come in to watch content. So we know that they understand what our service is, but connecting that with an intentional as an intentional destination does require work. So those are the things that I'm thinking about and my team's thinking about. How do we make Samsung TV Plus a destination that you go to first and then consume there?
Catherine, how does that kind of compare to your approach with WatchFree+?
I think Watch Free Plus is about making sure that we can cater to our audience, and there should be, I don't like to use the phrase something for everyone. I want there to be something for a person specifically, right? And so I think it's important to make sure that we have the depth and the breadth of content that customers are looking for. I think the point about we don't want to be the place that you wound up by accident, right? We want it to be an intention as well. I think all of us do. We have amazing teams who are focused on bringing in the best content that they can, curating it, merchandising it, programming it in a way that makes it unique, that makes it feel different. And I think the piece of our approach that's really specific is when we have all of that data flowing through the system, the ability to truly understand what resonates with our audience, which may not be the same as this audience or this audience, and make sure that we're surfacing that content to customers is really kind of core to our philosophy.
Jen, what about you? How does your programming strategy at the Roku channel kind of integrate these approaches that we're hearing about?
Yeah, well, we are integrated with the product team, the machine learning team, merchandising, marketing, anything that puts a viewer first, trying to understand all the different touch points that we have along the platform. So what to watch, featured free, continue watching, personalized banner ads, mini ads, home screen takeover. There's so many different ways that Roku can leverage and offer these to our partners as well as tools to get folks into content. And so you use the data, to Catherine's point, to see what's working, what resonates with your audience. But then you also have to use your gut as a programmer and say, okay, this might work, let's try this, or what is Gen Z interested, what's adjacent that we can go acquire, and kind of understand holistically who the viewing audience is. And as a platform, it's pretty broad. So just trying to leverage folks' data in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious too. I know originals aren't your focus, but the Roku channel has had a lot of originals coming up there over the last few years. Not sure how many of you saw the Weird Al movie with Daniel Radcliffe. I was a big fan of that. How does your programming strategy for acquired content kind of dovetail with the channel's original strategy?
Yeah, we work very closely with Brian Tannenbaum and his team, trying to understand what is on their roadmap. Can we acquire shoulder programming or similar types of programming? Or if it's an amazing brand like Great American Baking Show, they're doing originals for that. We'll pick up, say, the British Bake Off and have it in FAST and VOD and kind of create this content ecosystem where we can drive a viewer from one to the other. We can promote the new seasons coming in the old library content and vice versa, and we've seen a lot of success with that.
Yeah. We're talking a lot about engagement. Obviously, one of the big reasons that everybody wants to boost engagement is advertising, ad engagement, ad revenue. So I'd like to talk about the CTV ad ecosystem a little bit. Dave, maybe you can tell us a bit about how does that ecosystem operate, and in recent years, have those kind of notoriously complex pipelines of that ecosystem, have they become, or are they becoming more efficient?
I mean, I'd like to think they are a little bit. I think they're still, I was at a IAB event the other day, and a rather major advertising exec sort of made the crack that, like, we blew it with digital. Like, it's too complicated. I mean, I wouldn't to this room talk about how it works at the base level, but in terms of supply and demand. But it's definitely, when we compare it to the linear television space where we had a common currency, everyone's trying to figure that out. These guys all have access to fantastic data on their services, but it makes them each a little bit of a bespoke offering, even if they're integrated with various DSPs and SSPs. So, I mean, ultimately, I think we just need to make the buying process easier. We need to make, third-party measurement types of currencies more consistent across the board, so that the media buying entities can really buy into because this whole ecosystem of digital television that has targeting and tools that have made the phone and the web so incredibly powerful, I think we're at the very beginning of that. But you've got to have some of those things in place. And I feel like every year when I go to these ad events, everyone talks about more collaboration in this year. And I think it is improving, definitely. But, the execution is really important. I think there's still room to run. Actually, I'd love to hear Matt, aside from the Weird Al joke that you missed and you could have nailed it right there, talk a little bit about their point of view on that at the trade desk, because obviously I think they're thinking about trying to make things, and I'd love to hear about your philosophy on the OS and how it relates to your question.
Yeah, no, I think we'd all...
Mix it up here, Tyler. You ask me a question, I'm asking Matt a question.
We can do hair tips too, that's fine.
No, please. So what is your guys' philosophy with that whole side of things?
Yeah, I mean, one of the purposes of our entrance into the operating system space is to help make this ad supply chain more fair and transparent. I agree we shouldn't go into the details on it, but the best metaphor is that it's a financial market. There is a constant trading of inventory and dollars for ads that is happening, and at the trade desk we see over 17 million ad opportunities a second from the internet broadly. And so you have to make decisions incredibly quickly on behalf of your clients on whether or not this is a good ad opportunity for them, whether the creative matches, and whether it's priced correctly. And you have to do that in a tenth of a second, pretty much. And the CTV space in particular is at an interesting moment right now. It's preaching to the choir, but it's one of the best advertising products out there. It's often authenticated, right? People are logging in. It's sandwiched between some of the best content ever produced in human history. And it's on usually a big screen. So for advertisers and us operating on their behalf, it's a great place to put it. But we need to know that the ad opportunity is real. We need to know what that show is. We need to know to the best of our ability who is watching in order to accurately represent the value of it, because that helps publishers and advertisers. When an ad goes out from a publisher, on average, it could go out to 140 different pipelines at the same time. And so as someone from a company that sees most of those, it's hard to tell them apart, and there just needs to be more transparency and fairness so that we can bid on behalf of our ad clients and other advertising agencies can bid on their clients. And I think that's better for the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that point, correct me if I'm wrong, but the impression that I get from a lot that I've read about Ventura is that you guys feel that this increased transparency in the ecosystem and all of that, like this is going to be kind of a rising tide that will lift all boats. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the core trade desk, we're partners with, I think, everyone on this stage in one way or another as helping bring them advertising demand, signing up for our identity product UID2 or some of our supply path optimizations. So we're really looking to help be a force for good in the ecosystem. When we look out into the OS space in particular, and they're not represented on this stage, but you see 3 of the companies who are the most successful in the history of capitalism in Apple, Amazon, and Google. You get a little worried, I think, from the media industry. I think it's fair to say that we can't rely on their benevolence long term to be aligned with the media industry. So that's part of why we're taking this swing, like we have in other parts of our business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The 3 of you on this side, I'm curious for your guys' perspective on this. I know not all of you are as, maybe directly involved in the demand side and supply side and all that, but, how do you guys feel about where the CTV ad ecosystem is and how's your strategy kind of shifting on that front, and how might it shift in response to the entrance of Ventura into the space?
We don't just plug into Trade Desk and it just starts flowing in. It just all works together and ads are served at 100%. No, that's not how it happens. Joking aside, I think that there's this inherent conflict, and I think I asked the audience here, do you want your data sold out there and everyone to know exactly what you've been watching against your device ID or your IP address? And the answer is generally no, right? I think people have weighed in and said, they don't want it, and yet advertisers want all of this data and they want to know exactly what you ate for breakfast, and so they know what to send to you. And I think that there's a inherent conflict in the ad ecosystem in supplying so much data. And I think the 3 of us we're fortunate to have a lot of data, but we're also like, do we really want to give it all, and hand it all out? There's a constant conflict around that, right? So how do we create an ecosystem where we can serve ads that are pretty good? Maybe it's not perfect, right? Maybe it's not exactly a one-to-one experience, but how do you serve ads? And the reality is that this ecosystem doesn't exactly work like that either, right? It is broader. It is not, I'm going to send this ad to Catherine because I want Catherine to buy this product. It's still broader. In the ad world, you have to get reach, and you need to hit masses. And so how do you balance these things out to be able to say, look, I can deliver And I think this is the beauty of our ecosystem, is that we can deliver, we can ensure delivery, we know what content is on our platform, we publish it every day and everyone sees it. And it's, the entertainment is quality because our users are watching it. And you know exactly what, when they're doing it. So there's a lot of inherent information that's had that we don't have to necessarily pass it in a bid request to say, yes, this is the ad that Catherine should watch, so she should transact this way. And I think we have to get comfortable between the advertiser, the operating systems, and the systems in between to create more efficiencies, because I do think it's broken. I do think that there's so many different hops that these requests go through that aren't likely necessary, and that they're a byproduct of inefficiencies that we've tried to patch. And I think we do need to really look at our ad ecosystem holistically and say, okay, how can we make this work? Because there is a lot of inventory, right? There is great inventory that advertisers before, unless you were Coca-Cola spending, $200 million, on a campaign, couldn't get access to. But now you can. So what does that world look like? And I think that's been, from my struggle and my questions that I ask a lot of questions. But that's, how do we get to that point, as opposed to being stuck on, I need to know everything about that user who's on the other end of that glass. And that's not realistic.
Yeah.
If I back it up just a little, and I know we said we're not going to get too much into the weeds, but I do think it's helpful, because I think we all know we're talking about bid stream and metadata and all of the different things that go into that, which sounds like a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo if you don't deal with it every day. But what we're talking about is when there's an ad request, should the platform basically say, this is this show on this network channel with this audience demographic, with this device ID, and then there's something else called the supply chain that basically says, where did that request originate? And the reason I'm sharing that is because when we sit up here and we talk about it and we talk about, should we share everything, should we not share everything, how does that look? I think without understanding what those kind of parameters are that we're even talking about in some cases, it's hard to explain why one might take the position that all that information isn't even the way that the market is transacted. And what I would say about our strategy in the advertising space is we focus a lot on audience-based buying. So that means helping pair an advertiser or a client with the audience that they're looking for. And that audience can be found anywhere. That's what's amazing. That's what's amazing about having niche content. That's what's amazing about being a major network. You could still get that, and I'm going to say it, 35-year-old soccer mom, whether they're watching, they're watching animation, whether they're watching, let's call it, something that is not kid animation, right? To be clear, whether they're watching something that is sci-fi, you can still find that audience. And so there is a healthy balance between transparency, clean supply, value of advertising inventory, and pairing that with the overall advertising and audience-based buying strategy.
Jen, anything to add to that?
Well, I would say that ads is not my wheelhouse, but I know that the Trade Desk is a very good partner of ours, and we appreciate that, and we continue to grow our relationship with DSPs because we are the largest streaming OS in the United States, and so what's interesting about that is reach. And we just launched 3 Samsung channels, for example, and so just partnership and understanding reach and where the audience is at, I think that's what we're focused on.
Yeah. And Matthew, I think reach obviously is an important thing to think about. I've read some interesting things about how the Trade Desk is kind of, or what you guys are offering manufacturers to help with uptake of Ventura when it goes to market. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think it's worth breaking out sort of the components of this, right? Like we are an operating system for all apps. I hope every content service that's represented on the stage is on Ventura. We will not have our own content service. We're trying to separate those businesses to even make these conversations easier, right? And so what that allows us to do is when we talk to a television manufacturer or a retailer of televisions is really understand what their business looks like. And frankly, the manufacturing and